from Nubia to Jerusalem in 701 BC to rescue the Jewish king over there against the Assyrian invasion. At that time, Nubians were not there to look for oil or gold.
U.S. Representative Michael Capuano from Boston, who is here to speak, and then we will have U.S. Representative Trent France speak. So, Mr. Capuano, will you come with us? Thank you.
I just came down to express my appreciation for what you're doing and my support for what you're doing. This proposal is just ludicrous. I don't think that anybody in America would stand still for 1 minute if this kind of proposal were made here. And I cannot imagine why any government, even the government of Khartoum, who has a fair number of problems across the board, would even consider such a thing. I will tell you that I have no idea, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if, I have some Nubian ancestors somewhere along the line. I thought we all did. This is a culture that is not necessarily mine directly, but it belongs to all of us. It belongs to all of us as human beings and as people who just have no idea, no connection at all to some of the things that came before us. And to destroy, to even think about destroying these kinds of things is just unimaginable. And again, I just want to come down to say thank you for trying to put it in the forefront and thank you for your commitment to humanity and to the arts.
Churchill said that the farther we look back, the farther we can see forward. And so much of who we are today is partly built upon the great efforts of the past. And I think that that's much in the context of what we're talking about today. And I just want you to know it's an honor for me to be here. I'm especially concerned that some of the religious freedoms that might be at stake here. The Nubian people, our medieval Christian culture that have gone back for a very, very long time, and I'm a little concerned that perhaps part of the things counted against them in their area now is that very fact. So that's something that is a great concern to me, because certainly religious freedom is the cornerstone and the core of all other freedoms. If we don't have the ability to believe like we choose, then everything else is so much lost. As the co-chair of the Task Force on International Freedom, religious freedom, is one of my top priorities to ensure a lasting peace in Sudan that will protect the dignity of all Sudanese people, including those, of course, in the south, in Darfur, and Nubia. Mr. Capuano said the government of Khartoum already has some pretty significant problems. They already have made themselves, in the eyes of the world, a very questionable government in the first place. So this would be a good opportunity for them to show us that they have a decent respect for their fellow human beings. One of Africa's greatest and oldest kingdoms was led by the Nubians in Sudan. Yet instead of honoring this ancient African civilization, the government of Sudan seems set on wiping the Nubian history from the memory of humanity. I'm here today to urge the Sudanese government to enable further discovery and protection of the African civilizations of ancient Kush and medieval Christian Nubia by halting the dam construction and ensuring that the Nubians are part of any development that would impact these World Heritage Sites. If there's many fear these dam projects destroy the history and culture of the Nubians, the world and the Nubians will have suffered a great loss. These ancient sites include the city of Qamma, the first Nubian capital, which was founded nearly 8,000 years ago. And many pyramids, and of course the ancient hieroglyphics. Some Nubian sites have been preserved by UNESCO under the World Heritage List, but the many that you see in the photos today have not yet been protected. Sudan has a rich history and much natural beauty, as you can see in these pictures, and it serves as a symbol of pride and hope for many in Sudan and throughout Africa. Now, let me just say to you, I know that many of you are here, you have deep commitment to the Nubian people, first and foremost, and you want to see all the work of their heritage and their ancestors have some place not only in history, but for the future generations to consider. And for what it might be worth to you, I want to honor you with all my heart and regard, because we're each of us on this planet such a brief time. It just seems like life gets away so quickly. And yet when we have the heritage of 8,000 years, it is worth our effort to protect that and to do what we can to make sure that future generations have some opportunity to see what their forebears have gone through and done. So you have my congratulations for being here, and also my appreciation for being here. And we want to do everything that we can to work together to save the Nubian culture and the Nubian people, not only on their behalf, but for the sake of our children. Thank you very much.
My name is Mannan. I'm the Secretary General of the Rescue Nubia Committee. It was formed mainly to protect Nubia from flooding, and the National Islamic Front government in Sudan, with the help of the Egyptian government, are building a series of dams south of the highland to wipe, or actually to relocate the total Nubian population in an urbanized area, just as they did in the mid-60s. Some 50,000 Nubians were relocated in eastern Sudan, and they are threatened. Actually, they are living in asbestos ceiling houses, and it's proven that asbestos is a very dangerous and it causes cancer. They have been living there for 43 years. The Four Freedom Agreement, which was signed between Sudan and Egypt back in 2004, gives the right to relocation of over 6 million Egyptian farmers in the Nubian land. That means the Nubian people will be removed from their ancestral lands to an urbanized area, and Nubia will be gone forever. It will be a piece of history, like Inca and these old civilizations. We ask the honorable congressmen and congresswomen and the activists, the leaders, to help these Nubians who are engulfed, who are entrapped between the Arabs of Egypt and the Arabized Sudanese people, who are trying to remove Nubia from the map. Just help us to survive. We are not created to die for other people. We paid a lot for a dear price back in 1964, and we don't want to pay another price again for the prosperity of Egypt.
The best ways that I've seen recently about spreading the word about Nubia has been in the article in National Geographic by Robert Draper. If you have not yet seen that, you need to see the cover story of this month's National Geographic on the Black Pharaohs of Egypt, who were Nubian. Robert Draper is here with us this evening. He's been a correspondent for GQ magazine and a reporter for Texas Monthly.
Nubian history is really of singular importance, not only because it offers definitive proof of a civilization that once ruled Egypt and left behind a stunning, if mostly destroyed, array of artifacts and architecture, including, as I mentioned, these magnificent pyramids, but a history that proves as well that this particular civilization survived autonomously and survived for thousands of years, not as a copycat of Egypt, but with its own discrete customs, with its own burial rites and its construction customs. In particular, and this is sort of what my story had honed in on for National Geographic, the 25th dynasty, the reign of the so-called Black Pharaohs some 2,800 years ago, was one that was a remarkable subset of African history, and one in which we saw these very, very sort of fabulous and powerful and as well as enlightened pharaohs, such as Taharka and his father Piet. Unfortunately, as great as this history of Nubia is, it's a very obscure history. It's one we've only seen in fragments for a variety of reasons. First and foremost because, like most people who are conquered, the Nubians and their history were very much driven underground by the Assyrians, by the Egyptians, and others. And as a result, some of these great pharaohs, like Pa, for example, we don't even know what he looks like. Also, of course, climate had something to do with further obscuring what was left of the artifacts, but really more than anything else, it was the human damage done to this history. And to some degree, America plays a role in this, since it was the great Egyptologist George Reisner from Harvard who first made these a lot of remarkable discoveries in Qamah and elsewhere at the turn of the century, but who immediately interpreted these discoveries as evidence of a civilization that, because of its cleverness, because of all the remarkable things he saw, could only have been Caucasian. And so this was a belief that persisted for decades upon decades. And as a result, the historians sort of flip-flopped, as it were, that whenever they saw proof of something remarkable, an architecture or an archaeological discovery, they believed it must have been Egypt-driven. Whenever they saw evidence that the Nubian history had declined, and the 25th dynasty had collapsed, for example, it must have been, they figured, an example of the Caucasian leaders of the Nubians intermarrying with the inferior Africans. This persisted really until the Americans actually had some major role in correcting this in 1978 when the Brooklyn Museum had its breakthrough exhibit, Africa in Antiquity, which I think really laid the foundation for bringing into the public eye Nubian history. Unfortunately, around this time, there had already been one dam built, this one in Egypt, the Aswan Dam, consigning a lot of lower Nubia to underwater. And now, of course, as has been referenced, the Sudanese government is about to follow suit with a hydroelectric dam, which would create a 108-mile lake, after which the fourth cataract area of Nubian history, much of which has not been explored, would go the way of the Atlantis. This, I think, would be a terrible tragedy on a historical and civic level. And I'm really encouraged to see, just from a humanistic standpoint, that congressmen such as Congressman Franks and Congressman Capuano are leading the charge on this. And I certainly hope that, of course, the good news whenever something like this happens, albeit good news that arrives too late, is that there's a scramble among archaeologists to try to preserve whatever can be preserved. This happened with the Aswan Rescue Project, and now the Merowe Salvage Project is underway. And it's a bit of a bittersweet thing because they're discovering some remarkable things that they had no idea existed in that area, including perhaps evidence of pyramids around the fourth cataract, which heretofore had been undisclosed. The question remains what else is under there and whether we'll be able to get to it in time. Hopefully, due to movements like the one that's underfoot here in the Rayburn building, that will indeed come to pass. Thank you all very much.
Another person who is helping to preserve the culture and civilization of Nubia is LA Times photographer Carolyn Cole. Last summer, she traveled to Nubia. Her photographs are here, as I said, and you can find the article they were in online at latimes.com. So Carolyn, would you please come and tell us about your photographs?
At the time we decided to go up and do a story on the Nubian situation. In June was when there was a peace rally, a protest, I should say, in Cebu, where 4 people were killed. So that was part of the reason why we're going into that region. It's a long drive from Khartoum, and we arrived at night. Our host kept us, it was a very quiet visit. We weren't announcing our arrival because journalists are really not allowed to travel to that area at this point. In the morning, we wanted to see the actual area where the dams were going to be constructed, so we started driving north. It was only a few kilometers from Cebu where they were going to construct this. There were already about 400 soldiers in that region camped there to protect the Chinese workers. The school pictures that you see are in Cebu, and of course the children are not taught their native language, they're taught Arabic, so they're losing their culture in the schools as well. I think while I was there for one night and the morning the next day, I saw only one tourist. So these are real treasures, and it's a terrible situation, not only for the Nubian people, but also for these antiquities that I feel are definitely under threat. So thank you very much for having me.
Professor Khalid Cody is an accomplished Sudanese artist and activist. He is an adjunct professor at Boston College and Massachusetts.
I would like to thank you all for coming and participating in this important cause that very much unites so many people from very different places. When we say things about Nubia, we talk about human heritage, we talk about 2,500 years ago.
We have developed a unique way of seeing life, practicing it, spreading it, and enjoying it. Now this is quite seriously threatened. Those people, when they are scattered there, they will lose their institutional memory, they will lose their languages, and they stop dreaming in their mother tongues. They will stop dreaming in their mother tongues, and this is an abhorrent thing to happen to any human being. So for this all reason that we have been talking about real things, tangible cultures, but the scar that will never go away is when you don't know anymore who you are, when you have been robbed of your identity, which is culture, which is what makes you a human being. The world will be poorer if that intangible culture is wiped off. The world will be poorer if we stop feeding in our colorful